to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I want to ask you to make sure if you are ardent supporter of the bold analysis, the founder members and the new members, kindly make sure you watch this video to the end, because there is something I want us to discuss today here. And the discussion we are going to have by the end of this video, we will get to understand, is the new tactic that William Ruto is using in 2024 going to work? And in a more simpler manner, is Raila Odinga going to contain the public and get away with his handshake with William Ruto? Let us take a minute first and listen to one of my best columnists, Macharia Gaido. He was speaking today in Spice FM, and I just loved this conversation because I loved that conversation because it was eye-opening. It is from that I will take time and look at the history, look at, a brief history of the previous Raila handshakes. And then we interrogate and discuss, is he going to get, and even before you listen to that, kindly take a minute before you even listen to this video to the end. I want you to go to the comment section and tell me, from your honest assessment of the situation, I do get ideas from you. Do you think Raila is going to contain and convince the public to suppress the anti-Ruto rage? Now, let's listen to Macharia Gaido.
Those who shook hands didn't have a problem with it. They survived. If you're looking for survival, look for where. Have you seen a working formula for survival? Yes. When? In 2018. What happened? There was political survival.
Eric, let me ask
Are you looking for political survival today? Yes. What has been tried and tested? Clinical trials.
You see, the challenges were different then.
Yes.
In 2018, the threat President Uhuru Kenyatta faced was coming from his deputy president. So he had to be neutralized by bringing in Raila. The threat President William Ruto faces today is from the people. Will Raila neutralize the people? Yes, he'll satisfy his base probably, but the people who were out in the streets were not his base. He has no power over the Gen Zs, and he has no power over all the other people who are not necessarily Gen Zs, but broadly supported that revolt. And these are people of all age groups, all social classes, all ethnicities and regions. They are not limited to somebody's political caucus. Can he contain that? Can Raila contain that? I don't think so.
Is it possible that they've calculated and seen that those are the minority and that their bases still form the majority?
Actually, that thinking makes sense because it is logical. But who foresaw that the Gen Z were going to go onto the street? People are busy thinking. The same thing you're saying, planning, feeling, this is how we've got this thing covered, okay? We've got it. Then one day they didn't get it. And then they've continued not to get it. Could it be that this is one of those moments where when you're tracing back and saying, there was a politician in this country called Raila, that man's popularity was tremendous. And then he started waning. What happened? Could you trace it to such a moment where, yes, you have a lot of support, and somehow the support now, the base starts questioning also and saying, actually, guys, let's give this thing a second look. Because this movement is causing Kenyans to give this whole thing we call Kenya, and this arrangement, we have a second look. We're asking, are we really going to continue living this way? And that's why this handshake is being questioned in ways that had never been questioned before. And you're talking of nominations. They are being looked at. They are being examined with a tooth comb. They are being examined in ways they've never been examined before. It's a very different dispensation.
But is this progress, Macharia? Is this real progress that we can actually look at it and say, measured, that the things that people are asking for, because this was what set it was, the revolt, the revolution, the protest. But is this progress to get from point A to point B, the things that we see happening currently? Is it really?
I would say, in terms of the people and their consciousness, there is a great deal of progress. For the first time, we have seen that people can rise up without having to be controlled by politicians or mobilized by politicians. People can just say enough is enough, irrespective of their party or ethnic affiliations or our normal fault lines. People can all come together and say enough is enough.
That is what I want us to discuss. And I like what Macharia has said. He has really tried to explain whether the enemy is, what is the enemy, what is the threat that William Ruto was facing. And that is why I want to explain. Will Raila Odinga be able to neutralize William Ruto's threat in this 2027? These strategies of going after opposition is something that happened. So just to paint for you the real picture, I want us to compare, I want us to look at a brief history of Raila Odinga's previous handshakes until this one of Ruto, so that we look at the dynamics and compare whether the current, the current handshakes, what they achieved, is this able to achieve? And let me take you way back in 1997. Raila Odinga was supposed to support Matiba for presidency. And Matiba, they would attend joint rallies in Kibera and Mathare. So it said, Matiba even demanded that Raila to endorse him publicly in Kibera, something that was not still easy. By that time, Mwai Kibaki had decided, and so what happened one day, Matiba burnt his voter's card. People who are not Gen Zs understand that politics well. And boycotted, demanded that they boycott the elections. Mwai Kibaki had decided he was going. And Raila tried to bring together the opposition team together, because if they would have a joint ticket, they would be able to surprise Moi. But they went to the ballot squarely, and Moi beat them. Raila becoming number 3. After Moi first, then Kibaki second, then Raila became number 3. So after that, after they had lost that election, now Kibaki, Kijana Wamalwa, and of course they went to the ballot with Kijana Wamalwa, Moi, Raila, Kijana Wamalwa, Ngilu, all of them. But now after that, after Moi had beaten all of them now, Kibaki, Wamalwa and Charity Ngilu decided that Moi had stolen the elections, and now they needed to organize a 1 million march to State House. So they had planned meetings, and in the meeting that they had organized to meet at, they were asking Raila to come for joint press briefing. Kibaki had as closest allies known as Jenga Karume. Kijana Wamalwa, who was the leader of Ford Kenya, had George Captain, and then Charity Ngilu had Titus Mbathi, and Raila had his closest ally Job Omino, whom they went for in that meeting, But they had organized the next day, they would meet in Norfolk, then march to Uhuru Park, where they would lead the 1 million protest to State House. So the very day they were supposed to meet in Norfolk, all the others did not show up. In fact, just those their allies came and brought all manner of excuses. So Raila and Job Omino were in Norfolk alone, only to look besides them and see Mark Too was in the same hotel. And then Mark Too went and told Raila Odinga that Kibaki, Wamalwa, Charity Ngilu and the rest, they chickened out because they wanted you to do this thing, to do the protest to your people alone. Then from that point, Raila Odinga formed an alliance, which Raila Odinga was then leading NDP, formed an alliance with KANU. And from that working relationship with KANU, Raila Odinga was able to form and of course, still scatter and bring everyone together to stage the Moi walkout when Moi decided to support Uhuru Kenyatta against maybe the other veteran politicians. Now, what happened? Why did Moi take Raila, or how did Raila-Moi handshake help Moi? It helped Moi because Moi understood the enemy were kina Kibaki. Kibaki had become number 2 and Raila had become number 3. So it is Mwai Kibaki, Kijana Wamalwa and Charity Ngilu and that other team that felt that election had been stolen from them. But they were the ones to lead the 1 million march. So what happened is Moi, the handshake between Raila and Moi helped Moi to cool the tempers because they had picked someone from the opposition and that was the strongest candidate that was leading the fray. And look at it. From there, Raila went into government. You know, that is where Mudavadi served for vice president for shortest time, if you remember. He came into government and even became the secretary general of KANU. Until the time the 202 came, Raila staged that walkout from Moi camp and was able to get a wave that upstaged Ruto, that upstaged Moi, that removed Moi from power. So that handshake helped. Now look at the 2007, when the oligarchs around Mwai Kibaki decided that Mwai Kibaki had to cling on power, even after losing that election. It's not debatable. Mwai Kibaki lost the 2007 election. So the country broke into skirmishes. So when that grand coalition government was formed between Raila camp, the ODM camp, and the PNU, which was led by Mwai Kibaki, why was it able to cool the tempers? It was able to cool the tempers because by that time, the Kenyans who went on the street to protest, they were protesting because they felt their victory had been stolen. Amongst other reasons, it was a rage against a victory. And so, because that is what was at the table by then, when that handshake happened, there was calmness. Some peace was restored because that is what people demanded. Even though it never settled fully, but there was some reprieve because what the people were asking for, they had a share. Look at 2018. Uhuru Kenyatta had a threat, and the threat was William Ruto. The threat was William Ruto. But they had formed government. And William Ruto had taken over, and it was not easy. Raila Odinga, they had also squared the vote that Raila was controlling half the country, and Uhuru Kenyatta was more than half of the country, and Uhuru Kenyatta was controlling the other half. Now, the other half that was with Raila, it was only easy to win them because to get Raila on your side. So one, you'll achieve peace, and number two, you'll be able to tame the deputy president because the deputy president had hijacked parliament. And I can tell you it would be an uphill task even for William Ruto, for Uhuru Kenyatta to pass budget in the parliament by then. Let's come to 2024. In 2024, the protests was very organic by members of the public raising issues on bad governance. It is not Raila Odinga who called people to the streets. That's number one. It is not Raila Odinga who called people to the street. In fact, ardent Raila Odinga's diehard supporters kept off those protests, saying Raila had not asked them to go to the street. And then, what you did, what William Ruto did, is to pull the Moi card and Uhuru card back then in a different dynamic. And this is what I'm saying. People did not go to the street on, this was an people problem. So any sort of agreement with Raila is not answering the question why people are protesting. If you compare that with 2007, 1997, and 2018, it's a different political landscape. But because William Ruto saw that his popularity was going down, he needed to salvage himself. And that's what I'm saying. That argument, or rather that deal, was to salvage political future. And so, with that, these are the factors that are going to make it extremely difficult for Raila Odinga to contain the people. The objective that William Ruto wants to achieve with the Raila handshake is to contain the people, suppress the protest, and then re-engineer his journey to 2027 re-election. But this strategy was not the right one in this context. And I want to tell you why Raila Odinga may not be able to contain the people like in the past. The first thing is this. The sort of gentleman agreement between Ruto and Raila, disguised as broad-based government, was never the demand, or rather is not responsive to the Gen Z requests. Truth be told. And just to I want to explain this, I want to defend this by saying, do you know that Raila attended burials last weekend in Luo Nyanza? And instead of owning up and accepting that they're in some sort of agreement with Ruto, they went in that burial and told mourners that those who joined government, they joined in their individual capacity, and we are not party to that, or rather I am not party to that. Of course, me and you know that is not the truth. The truth is Raila forwarded the names. That's not negotiable. But look at what he did. He went and cannot come and defend the sort of broad-based government. Why? Why is it becoming difficult for Raila to own up and support the broad-based government, despite the fact that Energy CS is going to be Wandai, who is his closest ally, and Raila himself is an investor in the energy sector. So even in his personal capacity, he's going to benefit. You know, I told you guys, we must have this discussion, because now that is what will enrich the discourse. We must enrich this discourse. And so, what is making it difficult to do that? He's making it difficult because the public are not going to buy that broad-based from him, because they never demanded for it. So, the medicine, the prescription that the doctor is giving is not what the patient is not curing the illness that the patient was suffering from. That's it. Someone is sick, you decided to give another medicine. And of course, off the mark. Number two, why it will be an uphill task. And even before I play for you number two, can you listen to President Ruto struggling to explain this broad-based in Mombasa, saying it is what it is? You may get to understand something they're saying. I realized that for long, we've had politics of shareholders, politics of side. That's what he's saying. Do you want to tell me that people went to street because Rigathi said shareholders? No. The kind of handshake between Ruto and Raila would have been legitimately solving the problem if the protest would have started immediately after the results are announced, and Ruto has not even been sworn in, or even after is sworn in, and the people protesting and asking for power. Then you say, because you've denied us our victory, now tupatie Raila ministers tatu tukubaliane, then that would have been the situation. But if you look at this 2024 context, believe me, it's a bit different, truth be said. The second reason here is the prominence of advancing the prominence of using social media to advance the agenda is giving Raila Odinga low profile, even in passing his message around it. Since this handshake, Raila have not called a press briefing. It's Sifina who tried going to Citizen to explain, defend ODM party, and there was a backlash and never went back. And Raila Odinga now has been dishing press briefings one after the other. It has not come out to make a press briefing to explain. No, why? You say this, these people will go to social media and have a position and squash all that. And the mainstream media, because they're also affected, they're not giving Raila Odinga that much of the prominence. By the way, they're not doing that. They're advancing with how the story is developing. They're not giving Raila Odinga that airtime to it. The third reason why this might be difficult is lack of public binding appeal. And let me use a good example. 2007 and 2018, there's something similar with both. In 2007, it was peace, because the country needed to be peaceful. In 2018, Raila and Ruto brought in the historical perspective of, we want to build the bridges that were burnt, that had been burnt for years. Since the breakup between Jaramogi and Jomo Kenyatta, the Luo and Kikuyu had some sort of rivalry. Now, before Uhuru Kenyatta left power, Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to end that, and he achieved it. And that's why I kept on telling founder members of this channel understand. I've been saying this and repeating that William Ruto inherited a peaceful country because of the 2018 handshake. Try to imagine that Chebukati is announcing that the gap between Ruto and Raila is 200,000. And look at 2018 context and this one. And then the situation, the difference is 200,000. Ruto would have not got it easy. The Raila of 2018, tumemshinda na 200,000. And there is peace and you can be sworn in. It was not easy. So that is why I'm saying that we cannot rub it off a face. Now, there was need for peace building, and now here, what exactly we have is a broad-based government that only Ruto is talking about it in Mombasa, but Raila Odinga cannot defend it. Lastly, what is the Raila's Canaan endgame? Since 2013, after Uhuru was announced, there was a hope for Canaan. It was announced and got away with it. In 2018, where was it easy for Luo to embrace Uhuru handshake? There was a big hope that Uhuru Kenyatta was going to support Raila Odinga, because Uhuru Kenyatta would not seek another term because he was in his second term. For now, I can ask, yes, to Raila Odinga supporters, there are diehards who believe one day we have a dream of seeing Raila becoming a president. What do you have for them? Is there a path to Canaan? Or is William Ruto now the Canaan? What am I saying? Even the hawking that politicians have been doing, and the hope messaging that Raila Odinga had been giving his supporters, that hope is gone. Because with William Ruto's side, everyone knows that William Ruto needs a second term. In fact, if you would have been Kalonzo and this other part, people think, yes, is joining us in fighting for freedom so that the country, you might think through. But people are not saying, unless you tell the country that William Ruto presidency is the Canaan that you are telling to supporters. Without that, I think, I'm convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that it's different with all the other handshakes. This one of 2024 might not get the acceptability like the previous ones. Thank you. I want to take the next 10 minutes after I publish this video. I want to read your comments. So tell me what you think about it.